Welcome back, friends. Welcome, and Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining me here on Studio Talent Collective, the podcast in 2026. Now, this is episode 229, which is super epic. Very, very far along in the podcasting journey, which I sometimes have to pinch myself. But yes, we are still rocking up each and every week in your ears. And I want to say thank you for that. Now, you may have noticed that even though I'm saying, yay, Happy New Year, we're here, etc., this isn't actually my first episode of the year. I did drop a sneaky episode about 2 weeks ago. That was on the topic of the television series Heated Rivalry, and I couldn't help myself. I wasn't even meant to do a podcast episode during the holidays, but I just hooked up with my friend Simone Isles from Disinfluencer, jumped on the mic and did an impromptu episode, because we had to talk all things Heated Rivalry. So if you haven't listened to episode 228, make sure you rewind and do so. But anyway, let's jump into the show as we talk about my word of the year arrived and how that may inspire you. I'm Josephine Lancuba. Welcome to Studio Talent Collective, the podcast for dance and performing arts studio owners. Let's leap in. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm talking about my word of the year. Now, if you don't have a word of the year, I love it. Personally, having a word of the year makes it feel like there's a constant reminder to remain focused on whatever that initial vision or goal is. Arrived means so many things to me, and I'm going to deep dive into that in just a sec. But I just want to mention, firstly, I create a vision board every single year for myself. And on that vision board, I put the word of the year. Last year, it was abundance. So my word for 2025 was abundance. And honestly, that felt like a great word, because at the time, I guess, I'm even with all the things I have in place, when it comes to money mindset, feeling like enough, having enough, not just from a money perspective, worthiness, etc. These are continual things that I try and work on personally, from a personal development point of view, from a business point of view, from a financial point of view. And so I'm always constantly trying to, develop my worthiness, I suppose you might say. And so abundance felt very connected to me last year, because I wanted to embrace that feeling of abundance. And it was beautiful because it couldn't have ended any better. My son's birthday is actually on the 28th of December. And I grew up in a bit of turmoil, not going to lie. We had it good until we didn't have it good. Parents got divorced, all the things. I grew up in a domestic violence household. When they separated, it was just a mess, right? And so that's where that worthiness comes in. So there's a bit of neglect, the story of neglect in my childhood, all the things. And I suppose that's getting a little bit deep for you guys here on, on the pod. But that's just, that's my backstory without going too far into it. But I guess, there's always been a worthiness thread that I've had to work really hard on in my adult years. And so abundance was really a thing. And I suppose when it came to my childhood, especially in those tween to teen years, I certainly didn't feel abundant, you might say. In fact, it was really, living hard knock and trying to, scrape through, if anything. So going back to my son's birthday, and he's only young, he's 9. And I said to him, hey, what do you want for your birthday this year? Is there anything special you really, really want? And he said, no. I said, oh, come on, tell me. I'd love to get you something that you actually want, or what are you thinking about, or whatever. And he goes, oh, Mum, I've got everything I need. And I was just like blown away. And I was thinking, you know what? That's it. Like, yeah, of course he can have the new Mr. Beast, swarm kit or toy or, Roblox bucks, whatever they're called, all the things. And there's more that he could have or do. But when asked the question, he said, Mum, I've got everything I need. And I just thought, wow, like what a way to be as a child, what a wonderful little existence this boy has. And I'm feeling like I'm definitely part of that story as his mum. And what a way to finish 2025 with a feeling of abundance. Like, I have to admit, I gave myself a little pat on the back, proud mama moment. And I thought, yeah, we do have everything we need. And I'm really proud of that because I come from not having everything I needed. And so 2025, that really finished the year beautifully. And I definitely feel like, I reached that feeling of abundance. Abundance doesn't mean rich and all the things. It's about having enough, when is it enough? And feeling really grateful for what you have and practicing abundance is really practicing gratefulness. And so, yeah, that was 2025. Stepping into 2026, it's really about arrived. Now, I was having a chat and I talk about Simone a bit in the show because she's like one of my besties. And like I said in the intro, we went into a bit of a tangent, started the podcast early this year, ended up talking about heated rivalry for funsies, which was such a fun episode, and also how it has changed the industry. So again, if you haven't listened to that episode, flick back to the one prior to this one and have a listen. It's definitely worth a listen because we do talk about, diversity on screen, the film industry and all that sort of thing. But anyway, we were talking about, we had a planning session together, an annual planning session, and I sat in on a vision board planning session as well. And we were there together and she was talking about her word and I was talking about my word. And we both realized we kind of had the same word. Hers was landed and mine was arrived. And really, it's sort of one and the same, but you got to pick something that resonates with you. And I often say sometimes a word chooses you. Like you don't choose the word chooses you. So I guess arrived is my way of acknowledging the milestones that I have gone through. And I suppose when we think about making it, when have we made it really? Like having clarity and that self-trust and that confidence to internally arrive. I don't want to wait for permission anymore. I don't want to wait for validation or the perfect timing even. I really want to shift. And I'm not wanting to. See, this is the word arrived. I'm not wanting to shift. I am shifting. And so using I am instead of I will or I'm thinking of, I'm shifting even my language to I am preparing, to I am here. I've arrived. I am living. I am building. I am doing the do. And so I think it's just, again, it's all that mental gymnastics that we do each and every time. But that's the work. That's the mind work. And so I guess it's the difference between becoming versus arrived. Because becoming is super future focused. And I think every time we think too far in the future, we forget that we are in the present. And I really want to embody the present this year. I want to feel grounded in it. That doesn't mean I'm not looking to grow or evolve or expand from the place of arrival. Because, growth doesn't mean you're behind. It can mean you're established. And so that's the feeling I want this year, a feeling of being established. So I want to talk about waiting versus owning. So waiting looks like it will start when. For example, a couple of years back, God, it must be, I reckon 4 or 5 years ago, I decided to step into color. And what I mean by that is I used to always wear black because I felt fat, and I didn't want to wear other colors because if I wore bright colors, my butt would look big. Ridiculous. That's what I used to think. And then I made a decision to say, well, I'm going to buy that dress. I'm not going to wait to buy the colorful dress. I'm not going to wait to wear that dress because when I lose 10 kilos, I will wear the thing. When I lose 10 kilos, I will take the photo. When I, you know? And I really got sick of that from a personal point of view when it came to the way I felt about myself, the way I dressed. Like, I don't need to feel apologetic for looking big in a colorful freaking loose dress. Like, that's what I look like. I like the dress. Like, I'm going to wear the dress. Like, I think that took me a really long time. I mean, I wore black my whole life. You know, I even went as far as when I was 19, which was like, by the way, I wasn't even big then. It's so funny when you look back. I used to tie things around my waist to cover my hips and stuff like that. It's ridiculous, you know, but that is what I did. Are you sick of doing business alone? Do you wish that you had a friendship group or a peer group that you could soundboard ideas with and gain support? Well, I created The Green Room, an online social club where studio owners and performing arts industry leaders meet and connect. This is a safe space for you to not only have great conversations, but also build a community who gets it. Check it out. Head to studiotalentcollective.com/greenroom and find your business bestie. Link is in the show notes. On with the show. So waiting looks like I'll start when ... Once I'm more confident, once I have a bigger brand, once I'm more qualified ... Waiting looks like watching others do the thing you want to do. And arriving looks like speaking up now, doing the thing now, claiming your space now, charging properly now, saying, this is what I do without apology. So there's a big difference there. And that is what arrived means to me. Arrived doesn't mean finished. I want to be clear on that. Okay, because sometimes when you think, oh, I have arrived, it's the end of the story. Quite the contrary. I feel like 2026 is the beginning of my story. You may have noticed a refresh in my brand logo. So we've updated our branding, our logo. That is a signature of what we are excited about for this year. You know, we've updated our intro to the show. It's just another... it's those milestones of change and evolution and refresh. You get to hit the reset button anytime you like, okay? And so arrived means I trust myself. I back my decisions. I move without over-explaining. You don't need a bigger audience to be legitimate. So, for example, I started my social media, Instagram. I moved away from personal branding everything at Josephine Lancuba to moving to more brand-focused content, which was at Studio Talent Collective. And it takes time to build an online audience. But, and there was some hesitation last year. Oh, should I post that on my Josephine Lancuba page because I've got like triple the followers, or should I post on Studio Talent Collective? Well, I want to brand on Studio Talent Collective, so I'm going to have to move there. And so I made a decision that I didn't need a bigger audience to be legitimate because I have my customer base. We've got over 1,000 subscribers on my email list. We've got, people that are engaged in my world. You don't need a new title to be worthy. You don't need 10,000 followers on Instagram. You don't need any of that stuff. You just need to back yourself and know that you have arrived in your own skin. So for business owners, for studio owners, these are the takeaways I want you to have. Stop building like you're almost ready. Yeah, you're there, you're doing it. You have the experience, the know-how. You can do it. You are doing it. Lead like the business already matters, because it does, Show up as the CEO, not the understudy. Yeah. In fact, the CEO discussion is really interesting, because even now I'm still grappling with the grunt work versus the CEO thinking. And so I'm going to be implementing once a month a CEO vision day or session. It can be an hour, it doesn't matter. And this is where you do CEO thinking. This is where you literally sit down. So you might say, I'm making it up, the first Monday of every month, I sit down and I have a CEO thinking session. And this is literally where you just have a bird's eye overview of your business. Showing up as a CEO means making those executive organizational decisions, like what's going to really move the needle, reflecting on what you did over the last month and, what worked, what didn't work, how can we improve on what didn't work, how can we expand on what's working. And so just having that CEO bird's eye view on the business once a month, I think is critical. And I'm going to be implementing that in 2026 as an exercise. Also making decisions from self-belief, not fear of scarcity. I still grapple with that, even though, yes, I ended the year with abundance and that feeling of I have, really improved in my abundance mindset. But of course, fear and scarcity creeps in. It creeped in today. I'm in the middle of the Green Room launch, which is the online social club for studio owners and performing arts industry leaders. So if that's interesting to you, I'll pop a link in the show notes for the Green Room. It's studiotalentcollective.com/green room. Check it out. But not going to lie, there is, a moment where I was like, am I doing the right thing? I really want this community to be amazing. I want to build it. I know how valuable it's going to be, like to all the peeps, all of the studio owners out there, all of the performing arts industry leaders. Like, I know how amazing this group will be, because we need more sounding boards. We need rooms with like-minded people who get us, where we can communicate, converse, connect. That is how growth happens. Since I found that business bestie in Simone, the growth I have had has been phenomenal, because I have a sounding board, but not everyone has that. I want to create that for our community, and that's what the Green Room is about. But sometimes we still can fall into that fear and scarcity mode. I'm in launch mode right now for the Green Room, and it's January and I get it. People are in holiday mode, but still, I'm not getting as much responses I'd like from people. And that can feel scary. And that can feel like, am I doing the right thing? But then going back to that why, and knowing that it is the right thing, and you're on the right path. And again, believing that you have arrived, that you're worthy, that you're in the room and you deserve to be in the room. And so, sometimes you've got to push past that fear and scarcity mode, and that can be challenging. Hence why the Green Room exists, friends. So please do check it out, because I think that, we all need that sounding board. But yeah, I want that feeling of arrived for not just myself, but I want it for you guys as well. Sometimes we're even after 20 years you might be a studio owner of 20 years and you're still waiting to be discovered. I think, letting go of that and just, practicing what you do in real time. Every room you walk into, you belong there. Every social media post you put out, you deserve it. You deserve to share that. Visibility isn't luck, it's ownership. Yeah, visibility isn't luck, it's ownership. When it comes to my personal life, I want to enjoy the life I'm in the life I'm building rather, while being in it. Being in the frame, the framework or the mind of comparisonitis. Letting go of comparison timelines is really important. It's so easy to compare yourself to others. I've been a studio for 20 years and that studio down the road has been open for 12 months and they've got more students than I do. You can't do that to yourself, right? Feeling settled in who you are personally and not chasing the next identity crisis. Sometimes as well, sometimes just being proud of what you do without downplaying it. In Australia, for our overseas listeners, we have what we call tall poppy syndrome, and we tend to downplay what we do. It's what we do in Australia. We downplay everything. I think Americans are absolutely the opposite, and they love to amplify what they do. I think we need a little bit more of that. Yeah. So that's it. 2026, I have decided my word is arrived. And I've got some notes here. Less proving, more presence. Fewer over explanations, cleaner boundaries, more aligned opportunities, and quicker decisions with a quieter mind when I trusting in myself. And arrived is available to everyone. Yeah, you can feel in the space of being that you have arrived. You don't need a certain income, you don't need a certain number of followers, you don't need big external wins. You can just decide internally that you have arrived. And the moment you choose it, your energy will shift. Believe me, each time I remind myself that I have arrived, or I change my language to I will do this to I am doing this, I'm in the process, my energy shifts. Yeah, my energy shifts. And I think that's really, really powerful. So I would love to know, what is your word for 2026? It can be anything. I would love to know. Please send me a DM at Studio Talent Collective on Instagram. Follow me there, but send me a DM and tell me, what is your word for 2026? And of course, if you want to share any takeaways from this episode, you absolutely can. Also, don't forget to check out the Green Room. Link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. And I can't wait to be back in your ear each and every week, celebrating, sharing, and really just hopefully, inspiring the conversation, moving forward for your performing arts, business, and studio life. Okay, have a beautiful day. This show is brought to you by Studio Talent Collective, a plug-and-play talent agency helping studio owners become confident talent managers and build their own in-house talent agencies. Find out more at studiotalentcollective.com or connect with me on socials at Studio Talent Collective. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate it or leave a review. Thanks for listening.